and thank you for tuning in to the Rangers Rabble. Before we get to the content, I would just like to let you know about a brand new sponsor that we have, Rangers Pools. For every £1 that you spend, you help support the building of the new Edmiston House. And if you sign up with the code Rangers Rabble Podcast, you're also helping the podcast as well. So, Wilf, I know that you've used Rangers Pools before.
I have indeed, Mark, and I use it every week. I've got two lines on the direct debit. I play every week. It's very easy to navigate. You just go on, make yourself an account, go onto the pools page. You can either do it weekly or, as I do, just with a standing order of numbers. It's from memory. I think it's 10. The first 10 games you think are going to be score draws in the coupon every week, but football's that random. I just said, right, that'll be 10 numbers. That'll be 10 numbers. There's my £2 every week, and let's just see what happens.
We'll see, there you go. So it's dead easy to use. And of course, if you do sign up in the supporter branch agency, if you just put in Rangers Rabble Podcast, you're helping support Rangers, support the building of the new Edmiston House, but you're also helping to support the Rangers Rabble Podcast. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the content. I need to create a new ad for that because my beard in that is absolutely shocking. Hello and welcome along to live Rangers Rabble Podcast. It was supposed to be recorded, but I thought, let's go for it. And the only reason I went for it was because my good friend Andrew Bluebell says, Martin, go for it. Howdy boys, how you doing, Andrew? So I thought, go for it. Fours, aren't it? Evening lads, evening fours. I probably should do the intro before I get to the comments. So yes, hello and welcome. We are live on YouTube, Twitter and Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, please do subscribe, like, and Facebook, share, like, and retweet on Twitter or whatever it is. I don't know the technical terms. You can head over to our website, rangersrabble.co.uk, where you will find blogs, mostly written by Alan. He's okay, but he's getting better. So Alan, my friend, how are you?
I'm feeling champion. Just champion.
Just champion. Cammy, I suppose you're feeling the same?
Very good, mate. All good.
And Wilf, my friend, how's your stream?
Absolutely champion, yep. Just like myself, yep. Tremendous.
Right, listen, there's a few things on the agenda. Like I said, we were supposed to be recording, but obviously there's a lot of chatter about a certain Mr. Lewis Ferguson. Anybody who has ever watched me on this podcast or any other podcast that I've ever done shall know my feelings on Lewis Ferguson. Wilf, obviously, he's handed in a transfer request. There's talk of him going to down south, but there's also heavy rumours, like there always is, that he's coming to Rangers. So what do you think?
For the money they're wanting, he's not good enough to come to Rangers. He's not an upgrade on what we've got. And I believe that the derisory offer to quote Aberdeen that they turned down from Watford was 1.2 million. I wouldn't be paying any more than that for him, because for that sort of money, he'd be playing a lot for us, and he's not better than what we've got in the midfield at the moment. I'm not saying he'll never play for us, but at the moment, he's not better than what we've got, so it's a no for me.
Not better than what we've got, Cammy?
I've been in various conversations on Twitter about this, and the comparison a lot of people are using is Glenn Kamara, but as I said, if we could get Lewis Ferguson for 50 grand, I would sign him. But I certainly wouldn't be paying the figures that Aberdeen are looking for. They got £3 million for Scott McKenna when they sold him to Notts Forest. I think it's also a different financial climate with regard to COVID, but I think they'll be looking for well in excess of £2.5 million, which means he'll go down south. Which that's fine. We need to spend our money wisely, and I don't think he would be an upgrade, as Wilf says.
Is he good enough, Alan? Take away the money, right? Take away the money side of things. Just say we've got a Sheikh Mansour as the chairman. On a purely footballing sense, is Lewis Ferguson good enough for Rangers?
I'd like to think there's better out there. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but does he come in and walk into your first team? I don't think he does. And I know you say take the money side out, but I don't think we can spend £2 million plus, if that's what they're looking for, on a player that's not going to be playing. We know that Gerrard's got scouting networks across Europe. We've brought in players from Croatia before. We're looking at other players that I'm sure we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. I'd like to think there's better out there for the money that we're going to be paying out for him. Again, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just don't think he walks into your team. So I wouldn't be signing him for that money either.
Yeah, we're going to talk
what you've got to think, Mark, sorry to cut across you. What you've got to think is, if his last name wasn't Ferguson, would we be getting linked with him?
Well, yeah, that's always the question you've got to ask into it. And I'll take that back to you, Wolf, then. If his surname wasn't Ferguson, would we be looking at him? Or are we even looking at him? We don't know. It's just rumours.
I don't know that we are looking at him, but I don't think we'd be getting linked with him as much, particularly not for the money they're looking for. I mean, Aberdeen have made a rod for their own back because they've already said they're struggling financially because of the money they've lost with the pandemic.
Well, obviously that was a short and sweet answer for Wolf. Do you know what? I was slagging Wolf's stream, right? Alan's is terrible, isn't it?
I was thinking that as well.
You know what I mean? And maybe it's just not a good night for...
See the thing with Lewis Ferguson, I think that seeing a different era of Rangers team, I think Walter Smith would have liked the type of player that Lewis Ferguson is. He liked a McCall and an Ian Ferguson, and he's not even in the same class as Ian Ferguson. But I think in a different era of Rangers teams, I think Walter Smith would have fancied. He liked that type of player, and he liked to have a nucleus of Scottish players throughout his time, sort of thing. But I think if he goes down south and he does well, there's no chance he's coming back to Rangers, you know, because this is, I would say, when he leaves Aberdeen, this is his one and only chance to sign for Rangers, in my opinion.
Well, very quickly, according to Andrew Bluebells, Wolf was cut off by the Aberdeen fans, which is...
There is every chance.
It's very, very possible. Right, we had a poll that I put out not long ago on Twitter. I'm just going to look it up, and the question was simply, is Lewis Ferguson good enough for Rangers? Now, Alan, the results of that so far with an hour left, and if you haven't seen it, get over to @Rangers Rabble on Twitter and vote. Yes, 38%, no 43%, and don't know 18%. Does that surprise you, Alan?
No. As we've spoke about, I think there's better out there. I think there's better in Scotland as well. On our group chat, we spoke about, I know he's a different type of player, but Ali McCann, Alan Campbell at Motherwell, I think these players are better. And I think, as you spoke about, the reason that we're being linked so heavily with Lewis Ferguson is because his surname's Ferguson. I think if his surname wasn't Ferguson, those three young players together would probably be getting spoke about equally. But because Ferguson's a Ferguson, it makes news, doesn't it? It makes news that he's coming for a Rangers family and he's going to be going to Rangers. That's what sells papers, or allegedly sells papers. I don't think we'd be getting linked with him as much. I certainly don't think he's good enough.
No, look, my opinion on it, right? And by the way, people watching, thank you so much for tuning in at very, very short notice. Get your comments in, let me know, and I will certainly read them out. My opinion is I don't rate Lewis Ferguson that highly. I never have. I've said on previous podcasts that I don't like the way he plays. And obviously, I'm only judging this on the games that I've seen him play against Rangers. So I don't like the way he plays. I think he'll be targeted far more than what Jack and Alfie have been. He'll be sent off every second game. I just do not think he's good enough for Rangers. I do not think he's Rangers class. Getting to some of the comments, Peaceful Warrior, don't need him. Yeah, that's basically what I just said. Andrew Bluebells, I like him, but I agree with Wolf, 2 million tops. I wouldn't pay 2 million for him. Daza says I would take him no more than 3 million. God, it's gone up. Fours again, would we be interested if his name was not Ferguson? Look, plenty of comments. And I would Ray, just seeing your live, what's happening? All still buzzing. We are very much so. We're going to come to the celebrations. CGM, how you doing, CGM? Can't see him going to Watford. I don't know if he means he can't see him coming because he thinks he's going to Watford. David Baird, a lot of positives in signing him. He's good enough, right age, and his family are legends. But what do we... I don't like that comment, David. I'm not going to lie to you. Cammy, if we are going to go for Lewis Ferguson, what are we going to pay tops?
I think we would be looking at making use of Jordan Jones and players of that ilk. I think if we were going to, we would offer make weights as part of it. So I think $1 million, $1.5 million. I don't see us going any higher than that. But I would be. I think the chances of Jordan Jones going to Sunderland are probably reducing the fact that they're probably going to be staying in the same division after a playoff catastrophe as usual. So I think that if it was a make weight, say Aberdeen said, right, £1 million plus Jordan Jones, for example, then I would potentially go for that, but I certainly wouldn't be paying anything in excess of £2.5 million. Alan named Ali McCann. I mean, Ali McCann was one that I mentioned a while back. I think you could pick him up for 500,000 to $250,000 at the very most, and he would be happy to come and learn from Stephen Davis. And the guys, I don't think he would come and expect to be a starter. I think Lewis Ferguson would come and have an expectation that he would be a starting midfield player for Rangers. And that's no saying that Ali McCann's the finished article. In the ideal world, Stephen Kelly, for me, returns from loan for Ross County. Kieran Dixon returns for a shorter loan at Queen of the South. I would far rather that we tried to bring the guys into the squad. I'm not saying starting 11, but I think if Zungu's obviously going to go back to France, I think that those kids would be more than capable of filling that void. And if they aren't good enough to do that, then they probably shouldn't be at Rangers if they're not considered good enough to fill that role in the squad by the manager.
Well, actually, I was talking to William Irwin about Stephen Kelly about an hour ago, and he said that they're completely different players, though they play in slightly different positions. But I would much rather, Wilf, that if we were going to go for somebody like a Ferguson, and I know it's coming across that I don't like him, right? That's not true. I just don't rate him as highly.
Martin, would you play Aribo in a middle three before he played Lewis Ferguson?
That's a horrible question to ask somebody. That is a horrible question. No, do you know what?
Depends who the opposition is.
No, I'd play Lewis.
Depends if we're going to play up top.
Of course, I would play Lewis Ferguson. Of course. But listen, a couple of comments, a couple of crackers, by the way. The first one, Andrew Bluewells, $2 million, and we'll throw in Wolf's Wi-Fi. You can't say any fairer than that, Wolf, can you?
I'm actually not on Wi-Fi, believe it or not. I'm on 4G, but anyway, throw my Wi-Fi in if you want.
You're giving away trade secrets. CGM, Aberdeen will want $4 million, which they are not going to get. Peaceful Warrior, we need folk. No chance. We need folk challenging for the first team. Ferguson won't do that. Now, CGM cleared up his earlier comment. Watford going to the Premier League, I don't think they would be looking at Lewis Ferguson. But he came in with this. You can't judge a jockey riding a donkey. Wait until he gets on a proper steed. So, look, taking it for that point of view, Alan, is that a fair enough point? Look, we can judge Lewis Ferguson on what he does at Aberdeen because he's playing for Aberdeen. But do you see anything in him that he would be a far superior or a better player coming to play at Rangers with better players?
I think, you see players coming and playing in better teams, and they look like better players. The famous example of that for me was always Darren Fletcher at Man United. Darren Fletcher looked brilliant playing for Man United because he was surrounded by great players. When he came up and played for Scotland, he struggled at times. Not to say he was a good player again, but he struggled at times. So you could say Lewis Ferguson would come to Rangers and look like a better player because he's beside Davis, Kamara, Joe Aribo, Yanis Hadji, Ryan Kent, these types of players. But that's going to be a decision that Gerrard and the scouting team are going to have to make. They'll be much more experienced in making the decisions on players than we will be. But I don't know that he's better amongst players because we've only ever seen him play for Aberdeen, and that's not his fault. But it's a risk. So if we've got the money to spend on a player, do we take a risk or do we go for somebody that's proven at a better level and we know they can come in and perform at that level and amongst Rangers players. I don't think we're going to take the risk. I think we're going to go for somebody either a little bit more experienced or somebody, as Cammy says, that's not going to be expected to be a first-team player, that's going to be willing to come in and learn for a wee while before we become a first-team player.
See the thing for me as well, Martin. Sorry for jumping in.
Everyone jump in.
Scotland have just named a squad of 26 for the Euros.
Mm-hmm. I was just about to bring that up.
What's his face? Ryan Jack, Kenny McLean are both out injured. Lewis Ferguson isn't even in the. He's not even mentioned. Mm-hmm. So personally, Turnbull I think is massively overrated. And I think he's been very fortunate to pick up the awards that he did. And he's made the squad. So Lewis Ferguson's clearly there's potential there, but I think an English team that can potentially have the cash to take a punt on him, I think that's where he's going to go. Aberdeen are going to want to maximise the fee. Rangers are going to want to get him for as cheap as possible, if at all, if we are even interested. Which I'm a bit like Wilf. I think we spend time talking about this. I'm not convinced that he's even on our radar, to be honest.
No, very true.
I think, sorry, Martin, I'll cut in as well. I think he would only be on our radar, because I don't think he is on our radar. I think he would only be on our radar if the coaching staff saw the potential in him that they've seen in Scott Wright, because he looks a lot better player playing for us than he did playing at Aberdeen. And if we could get him on a similar sort of deal, because we paid buttons for Scott Wright, because we were getting him for nothing in the summer anyway. I mean, the fact that Aberdeen are going to want 7 figures for him, even if we were interested, I think that would put us off, because at that kind of money, as I said earlier, we're signing a guy that's going to play most of the time. Ferguson's not good enough to get into our midfield at the moment. Not to say that he'll never be good enough, but at the moment he's certainly not. No,
definitely, I totally agree with you both. And listen, Fog Dog, it was fantastic to meet you at Ibrox, by the way. Very, very, very pretty man, I must say, has to be said. As I've seen somewhere else said, who thought Kamara would have turned out like he has? Alan, that is a point. Yeah. How much did we sign Glenn Kamara for?
50 grand, I think.
As much as we paid for fireworks.
50 grand. So it's one of these things. I think that the recurring theme is he'll be half decent domestically, but it's a gamble. So I suppose that's the point where Kamara was 50 grand. So if Kamara didn't work, look, it was 50 grand. We're not going to be shelling out millions for Lewis Ferguson, are we?
No.
Well, the thing, sorry to cut in, guys. Well. Martin, the thing as well, we signed Kamara for 50 grand. It's a gamble. The guy's an international, right? Mm-hmm. He's a Finnish international. If it didn't work, we were never losing money on that. As Cammy points out, Lewis Ferguson can't even get into a 26-man Scotland squad. So you're not making your money back on him if it doesn't work.
No, true. On you go, Al.
I was just going to say similar on lines as well. Kamara had played at a couple of different levels, including international football. We knew a wee bit more about what we were getting. For me, I know we could watch him every week if we want. I mean, I don't want to watch Aberdeen every week, but some folk might. But is that enough to say that he's Rangers quality and he's good enough? I don't think it is. For what I've seen him, I don't think it is.
No, and like Cammy says, we could sit and talk about it all night. It's not going to change unless we hear something. Just one word answer. Is he going to sign Wolf?
No.
Cammy?
No.
Alan?
No.
People in the comments? Yes or no? Now, this just not broke, because that's not fair, because it was just a rumour on Twitter by Penna Cartel. Zinedine Ferhat, Cammy. Apparently, there has been some kind of bid. It could be a lot of nonsense. I think it was an Algerian reporter that came out with it. Zinedine Ferhat.
Never heard of the guy, to be honest. I'm not a connoisseur of Algerian internationals and stuff like that. I had a quick search about 27, 28-year-old playing in France with Nîmes, going into the last year of his contract. looks a bit of a silky sort of number 8, right-sided sort of midfield player. So I don't really know. It's newspaper or website silly season. They're just trying to
I agree.
Get hits, and there's potentially he's on a, like Ross Wilson has his list of 10 options for every position. There's every possibility he's one of a number of players that we're looking at. But other than the link that I've seen the same as yourself, Martin, I couldn't say anything about the guy's quality. I think 4 million was mentioned, but from what I've seen, I think if he was under contract for longer, I think it would probably be in excess of that. I think his fees less because he's going into the last year of his contract, which I think is the sort of players that I think we'll be trying to get. To be honest with you, you're going to get a player for maybe of a better quality, but the club, it's a bit like the situation we're in with certain players within our squad that are going into the last year of their contract, and I think Nîmes are about to be relegated as well. So I think they'll obviously be looking for as much as they possibly can. But I don't know enough about the guy other than what I've quickly searched when you hit me with that at 10 to 9.
I know, I've got a really bad habit of doing that, Hannah. I've never heard, no unless Rangers are possibly scouting out their next manager for when that day inevitably comes, and we're looking at maybe a wee Zinedine Zidane. That's the only thing I can take from it.
Let you have that dream, Martin.
Yeah, you never know. So, tell me about him then. Tell me everything about Zinedine Fairhat.
I know absolutely nothing about him. I have to say, I'm quite impressed with Cammy's knowledge, considering he knows nothing about him. That was quite a good bit of googling, because I had a quick Google and went, "Aye, okay, fair enough."
Cammy was just reading that off the screen. Don't worry about it. He was reading it off the screen. Alan, mate, I know that you know absolutely everything about him, so go on.
Yeah, I know absolutely nothing about him as well. I had a quick look. I was saying to Martin before we came on, I had a wee quick look at a highlight video on YouTube. Gets the ball a lot, scores little, but we signed Seb Rosenthal because of a highlight video, so let's not get too excited about that. As I say, I know nothing about him. There's a couple of interesting things there that could make you speculate. Last year of contract, just been relegated. Is this an agent trying to stir up interest to try and get a move before he goes down? You never know. You know the kinds of tricks agents play. We've signed players before that we've known nothing about. Again, would it be taking a gamble? But Gerrard and his coaching staff and his scouting staff, if they are looking at the types of players, they'll know a hell of a lot more about them than we will. So we just need to trust Gerrard's judgment. It's the same if we do eventually sign Lewis Ferguson. We'll just need to trust Gerrard's judgment. He's earned that. He's earned the right for us to trust his judgment.
Oh, he has, and our good friend Wally Urban has pointed out as well. The one thing we've learned in the last year is that the club don't do business in public. Absolutely, they don't. You've offended somebody, Alan. Sebastian Rosenthal was quality. Behave yourself. Good point in here for Andrew Bluebells, and it wasn't something we were going to talk about, but Fashion Sakala, finishing up his club career at, I can't even remember what the club's called, with 2 goals. Looking forward to seeing him.
I am. He's actually still got a game to go. That was his last home game last night, but I think he scored something like 14 or 16 goals this season. He scored 2 last night. I think he scored 2 last week as well. He seems to be scoring a hell of a lot of goals, which has got to be good. Because there could have been a school of thought that you might have downed tools. But once he knew he was coming to us, you might have went, "Well, I'm out of here, so it doesn't really matter." He's obviously got a work ethic, which is good to see. But yeah, I'm encouraged that the guy's scoring an awful lot of goals, which can only bode well for coming to us. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him when he gets here.
Aye, and Cammy, the guy's fast.
I think maybe one of the pods I was on last week, and I said that. I said he's going to add a much needed pace to the front line that we don't really. I mean, Ryan Kent's pretty rapid, but I think he's going to be flexible. You know, I think there's going to be 2 or 3 different roles that he's going to be able to play. I think Europe will be. Sorry, that comment's just. I'm just trying to see where Morelos is in that front three. But sorry, I've still not prepared myself for that one. But Isaac Alla, I watched his presser after the match as well, and I thought he spoke very well. You know, which he didn't come across as a bad egg sort of situation. You know, I thought he spoke well. I think he's wanting to leave. He's wanting to leave there on good terms, scoring goals, so that his history with that club's going to be looked back on favourably. Know that he's got his move, and then he's down tools. You know, so I'm excited to see him, and it's great business. You know, to pick a guy up like that for free. You know, it's it's going to enhance our front options, definitely.
I know, it definitely will. And Alan, I want to move on because this is a subject you're going to be covering for World in Sport, I believe, the Euros, and obviously the Scotland team was announced. I wasn't really that bothered about it until I seen the name Patterson. Young Nathan Patterson selected for Scotland, which, look, he's only played 6 or 7 games, but it's fantastic for him in his career, isn't it?
Oh, it's brilliant for him. He'll be absolutely buzzing. I'm delighted for him, and I hope that there's 2 friendlies before then. I hope that he can prove himself in the friendlies and get ahead of O'Donnell, the other right back, because he's miles better than. I know he's not played a lot of football compared to O'Donnell, and he'll be judged in that. But he's miles ahead, and if he can get a couple of games for Scotland at the Euros, that'll do wonders for his confidence. And it can only do good for us, him playing at the Euros as well. So I'm absolutely delighted for him. To be fair to Steve Clarke, I hate saying that, but to be fair to him, it was a decent squad. It was the best squad they probably could have picked. Picked Nathan Patterson, Billy Gilmour, left Lee Griffiths at him. For me,
I know, aye.
It might have been easy to pick Griffiths because Scotland's strikers, they struggle for goal scorers, but he's left him at him. So for me, I was quite happy with the squad when I seen it, to be honest. Not that I'm a massive Scotland fan either, a massive Scotland follower, but I've took an interest in the last maybe the last year or so, and I'm pleased to see Patterson getting into the team and picking a sensible squad instead of just picking the old pals.
That was my big worry for Patterson. And by the way, you can't pick Griffiths. The guy's heavier than me. He's barely kicked a ball a season. You know, I don't understand how any professional footballer can go a full season and not be fit when they're not injured. I don't understand. Oh, and of course McLaughlin as well. CGM, thank you for pointing that out. John McLaughlin is by far the best goalkeeper Scotland has, but unfortunately he won't play. We all know that. Well, young Patterson for Scotland, fantastic news.
Yeah, delighted for him. I didn't think he'd get picked, and to be honest, if it was still a 23-man team, he wouldn't be. A 23-man squad, he wouldn't be going. I don't think any of the 3 young guys that were picked would have gone if it was still a 23-man squad. But Steve Clarke's come out and said that when they go to their training camp in Spain or wherever it is, that it's a clean slate and everybody's got the equal chance of playing. I still can't see them playing, to be honest. But I mean, Patterson's the best right back he's got in that squad by a country mile. I mean, talking about the squad as a whole, I mean, I pay probably less interest in international football than anybody else on here. But everybody's bigging up the squad that Steve Clarke's picked. From what I've seen of it, it seems to be okay. But it puzzles me why he's got 3 goalkeepers over the age of 30. Because you would think he'd try and bring a young goalkeeper in to get some experience. Who that would be, whether it would be Robbie McCrory or who it would be, I don't know.
Xander Clark.
You know, I don't know why he's got 3 aging goalkeepers.
Liam Kelly for me had a good second half of the season on loan at Motherwell, and I think he picked up their Player of the Year. For me, that would be good succession planning with regard to have 2 keepers, whether it's McLaughlin and Marshall or McLaughlin and Gordon, with the 3rd keeper being Liam Kelly or somebody of that ilk. You know, I mean, it's like taking Greg Taylor. You know, take Josh Doig. and because Robertson's not going to get injured. Tierney probably will, right enough, and that's probably why Greg Taylor's in the squad.
You gave a wee.
Dundee just scored, so they're beating Kilmarnock 2-0 now.
And they've been beating Kilmarnock 2-0 for the last 20 minutes.
Sorry, I'm actually concentrating on this.
I just got a text to tell me that.
He's very, very seriously. SDM, therefore play Patterson in front of O'Donnell. Now, that's the big question, Alan. Steve Clarke is... I was going to say something, but I'm not going to. Steve Clarke will play Stephen O'Donnell before Patterson. Now, look, experience, maybe you could say fair enough. But from actual physical being able to play the game, nobody's going to convince me that Stephen O'Donnell should play before Patterson.
No, I'm the same. Clark said about the clean slate. You just mentioned about experience. Not one of the players have got experience at this level. Handful of them have played in Europe. Patterson's one of them. So for me, Patterson's got a wee bit of an edge on O'Donnell there right away. But I think Clark will stick with O'Donnell because I think he'll stick with the guys that got him there, even though they got there through the back door. He'll stick with the guys that got him there. And the guys are right. Your Gilmores, your Turnbulls, your Pattersons, they probably won't play that much. But to be in the team, get a chance in a friendly match, somebody gets injured, suddenly you're thrown into the limelight. And I mean, if somebody like Patterson was to go down to Wembley and have a great game, I mean, it can only be good for us, him coming back for the Euros, whether he plays or not, because just being in and around that environment will be fantastic for him. So, but I'm the same as everybody else. For me, Patterson miles better than O'Donnell. Should be on the team sheet.
Also, Billy Gilmour. I know he's no longer a Rangers player, but Rangers have played a massive part in his development. Yep. And I think there's been a lot of. I've seen a lot of pictures in the last couple of days of Patterson and Billy Gilmour through the ages playing for the national team. So credit to all the coaches that have helped the two of them to get to this, because I'm sure Rangers have played a massive part, and I'm sure Billy Gilmour and his family would recognise that. So it's great to. Maybe it's just me. I think Scotland are going to the Euros. I'm not going to be sitting with my St Andrew's cross draped around my neck and my face painted when I'm watching the games. But I think I would be playing I'd be playing Billy Gilmour in the centre of the midfield alongside. It'll probably be McTominay. I think he's a guy that wants to be on the ball. I think he's got an awful lot of qualities of a young Barry Ferguson. In my opinion, he's not scared of the ball and that sort of thing. And I think Patterson's exactly the same. Patterson is not scared of the ball. He'll take the ball in any situation. So Scotland are going to go here. They've got nothing to lose. Why be cautious?
Because it's Steve Clarke.
It's a Rangers podcast, but I'm delighted for the two boys in our current squad and for Billy Gilmour. And I think Alan said, I looked at the squad and I thought there's not really much I would disagree with that, to be honest with you. My thought was that he would shoehorn Griffiths in, thinking it's still the 2016-2017 Lee Griffiths that's scoring goals against Rob Kiernan and Russell Martin and guys like that, So I think that was the last time he managed to stay at the kebab shop.
I've got a call. The CGM, John McGinn's class of last night always makes me chuckle. That always makes me chuckle as well, by the way. Well, will there be more interest now from Rangers supporters who maybe have fell out of love with Scotland, so to speak? Not all Rangers supporters. Look, there's quite a lot who still love watching Scotland and support Scotland. I was until very, very recently, and I can't explain it. It just faded away. But will there be a few more now taking more of an interest in the Euros now that Patterson's in the squad?
Yeah, I think they're possibly will. Not just in the Scotland games. I mean, they'll be interested in the games that Glenn Kamara's playing in, the games that Blorna Barisic is playing in, the games that any Rangers player's playing in. I mean, I'm not disinterested in Scotland. I just don't have any time for international football as a whole. It just doesn't excite me at all. But I mean, I'll be looking out to see how our players do. if there is any games I'll watch, and I won't go out my way to watch any, it will be the ones involving our players, just to see how they get on. Because I mean, it can only be good for Rangers. I mean, even the like Cammy says, you got Billy Gilmore in the Scotland squad. If he was in the team and Nathan Patterson wasn't, it's still good for the Rangers academy, because they'll say, everybody will know where he came from. That's got to be good going forward, because they can see, not only can they see a pathway to bigger clubs or bigger leagues, rather. There isn't a bigger club, bigger leagues, or into the Rangers first team. They can also see that pathway takes you from the Rangers training centre into the international stage, which has got to be good for us going forward. It really, really has. So I think there will be a bit more interest from the Rangers fans, but there won't be. I can't really see many of them getting behind Scotland, to be perfectly honest.
No, and can I just say to people in the comments, and Andrew, mate, you should know much better. Well said, Cammy. Honestly, don't give him any praise. And I think there's actually another one in here somewhere. Aye, Peaceful Warrior. What are you doing? Do not give this man any praise at all. But Alan,
you're the one highlighting the comments.
Because everybody can see them. Everybody can see them. I'm just making sure you don't give that man a bigger head than he's already got. Alan, just to talk Scotland for 2 minutes. If you actually look at this Scotland team, I think it's actually a no bad team. People can say what they want about Tierney, I think, and I'm probably going to get slated for this, but I think Tierney is a very, very, very good player. I'd actually have him at left back before Andy Robertson. Please don't shoot me in the comments. John McGinn in the midfield, Scott McTominay in the midfield. If we've got Patterson playing at right back, maybe centre defence, Scotland are a bit poor. But midfield, wing backs, I think Scotland have got a very, very good team.
I think you were quite kind. I think you were quite kind to the centre halves there, to be perfectly honest.
I did just ignore the whole centre half thing.
There's good players, and there's a handful of good. Listen, I'm the same with the rest of the guys. I've not watched a great deal of international football. I don't mind the World Cup, the Euros, but mid-season international football doesn't excite me. I fell away from supporting Scotland for 100 reasons. Scott Brown and Lee Griffiths being two of them. So I've tried to get back into it recently, especially in the last year and that. So I've started to watch a wee bit more and pay a wee bit more attention to the Scotland players. And that you're right, there is decent players in there. Tierney is a decent player. I watch quite a bit of Arsenal, and I think Arsenal are a better team when Tierney plays. It's getting him fit's a hard part.
Exactly the point CGM just made. He's outstanding for Arsenal.
It's getting him fit, and I don't think he'll stay fit during the Euros. I think it'll playing the 5 games, including the 2 friendlies, in such a short period of time. I don't think Kieran Tierney will be able to handle it. And it's a shame. It's a shame for Scotland and the die-hard Scotland fans. And taking away the fact he used to play for Celtic, it's a shame for him as well, because how many more chances is he going to get to represent Scotland, his national team at this level? It's probably not going to happen again for a while, because as I said, Scotland snuck into this through the back door. I can't see Scotland qualifying for the World Cup or the Euros again, unless it's through League of Nations.
Sorry, Alan. Andrew, Tierney is good. Tierney and Patterson are like Jardine and McGrain. Cammy, your thoughts?
A wee bit before my time.
No, it's who you try to kid.
I think
it's even before my time.
I think Wilf would be better placed to answer that one, to be honest.
I was 5. I've got absolutely no recollection of it.
Oh, right. Anyway, right. Okay, let's move on to the Scotland.
Listen, the one thing about playing Stephen O'Donnell. Look at the England attacking options: Phil Foden, Sterling, Grealish, Rashford. I mean,
England will destroy Scotland. England will destroy Scotland.
That's part. See the thing. Nathan Patterson starting against England. Nathan Patterson starting. Scotland play Croatia. Nathan Patterson up against Borna Barisic. I think would be brilliant. I think it'd be
amazing.
It'd be brilliant to see. But I think Nathan Patterson up against Phil Foden, I think would be fantastic for him. For his
but Cammy, do you know what? Even if he gets ripped, it would still be fantastic for him to learn.
But I think there's potential that he could get ripped going that way, but he could equally do the same to Foden going going the other way, sort of thing, But anyway, enough about Scotland.
Yeah,
I think it's worth remembering we've got players going to Euros, but we've got Alfie going to play for Colombia, a couple of World Cup qualifiers, and then possibly Copa America as well. So another big feather in his cap if he gets to go to a major international tournament with Colombia. So, good luck to him, and I hope they do well as well.
No, listen, absolutely. There was a comment, I can't find it, and I honestly don't know because, like yourselves, I don't really keep up with international football. But Cammy, who's going to win it? Somebody asked who you think's going to win it. So
the Euros, France probably. France.
Is that because they won the World Cup?
No, do you know what it is? It's only because I saw somebody listing a starting 11 of players that wasn't actually in the French squad, and there's a fair bit of quality hasn't actually made the squad. To be honest with you, I think France, Belgium. I think one of the two probably.
Alan, who's going to win it?
Czechoslovakia still in it. I'd probably go France as well. Just because I've seen them play a couple of times, and ever since they won the World Cup, I still fancy them. So I'll go France.
I'm going to go Yugoslavia. Wolf?
Not a clue. Haven't a clue. Don't even know who's in it.
Honestly,
I don't even know who's in it.
Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday. Anyway, France or Portugal for Graham? Accrington Stanley, yeah. I think Windass is going back there. CGM, Scotland won't win it, of course. Scotland won't get out of the group. CGM, come on. England or Italy, dark horses. France, England final. Now, that would be interesting to watch. But anyways, and of course, CGM, Costa Rica. There you go. And this is a good point, actually. England have all their games at Wembley. They must be in with a shout. That's very true. And finally, Andrew Mbappe won it on his own. I don't know, he struggled to do that in the Champions League. Right, so we're going to talk about something now. I've told you before we come on. Be nice.
You mean you told me?
Yeah, I told you. Yeah, I told you. All right, fair enough. I didn't want to tell everybody that was watching that I had to keep you. Well, I was going to say something else, I better not. I forget people can clip stuff online now. Celebrations on Saturday after the win against Aberdeen. I met Wilf in his fantastic suit outside Ibrox. It was looking tremendous. Cammy stayed at home. Alan stayed at home. Ibrox was fantastic. The celebrations were lovely. Cammy went to George Square. We will come to the government in a minute because I'm pretty sure you've got some strong opinions on that. And I'm trying to find how to phrase this without sounding like a dick. The scenes towards the end of the night, which you would expect on any kind of Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Glasgow, but however, they were horrendous.
Listen, it didn't surprise me in the slightest. I think I had been fairly vocal from the outset when George Square was first mooted as a good idea, that it was an accident waiting to happen, and what unfolded didn't really surprise me. It only takes the bangers that we have within our support, the bangers that are not, I believe, representative of the Rangers support that follow us at home and away and to Europe. These are people that are just out for a day out, having a big, massive 12-hour sesh and having a fight is just that's what finishes off their night. And whether Rangers are part of that or not, you know what I mean? Listen, everything's instant on social media. So you wake up on Sunday morning and it's like phone's gone mental. You've got all these videos and all that sort of stuff, and it doesn't look great, but it's it didn't surprise me. You know, it's just what's happened in the last few days. That's
yeah, we'll come to that definitely.
But it's disappointing, but not a great surprise to myself.
No, well, and like I say, the reason I keep saying we'll come to the government and we'll come to MSPs and all that a bit later on is because I want to actually just speak firstly about George Square, because as CGM says, well, it wasn't a good look for the club, no matter how you spin it or who gets the blame. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, well, it is fair. It's not. It wasn't a good look for the club. It wasn't a good look for Glasgow. It wasn't a good look for Scotland. But it's, as Cammy says, it was an accident waiting to happen. It's indicative of Scottish society. It's a societal problem.
Yeah.
You know, young Scottish people, alcohol, people. I mean, it's what seems to have passed everybody by. Right, all the fighting's happened like 8, 9 o'clock at night. Right, when everybody's been on the pop since about 10 o'clock in the morning. Right, it's always going to happen. I've been to Premier League darts up here in Aberdeen. Come out and had to dodge fights in the car park because people have been on the bevy all night, and all they do is come out and start fighting. I used to work in nightclubs. People were always starting fighting. I mean, one of the biggest nights for fighting I ever saw in Aberdeen was after Aberdeen won the League Cup. They all started fighting with each other because they've been drinking all day. It's a Scottish societal problem, and it isn't a very good look for the club. And it was always going to happen. It'll happen. It'll happen at Transmit in September when it goes ahead. It'll probably happen. I wouldn't wager against it happening when Scotland play England in the Euros, because they'll have. I don't know whether they're planning on having fan zones if restrictions will allow that. But if they do that, they'll all meet in George Square, and the Scotland fans will all be boxing with each other because it's what happens in Scottish society. And as Cammy says, George Square was always going to be like that. I mean, I made a conscious decision to go to Ibrox, right? But there was no way on God's earth I was going anywhere near George Square, because if there was going to be problems, it was going to be at George Square. You know, and that's exactly it.
Sorry, I'm just be joined by a cat.
I didn't mean to laugh, Wolf. It's just I seen the cats and I thought I'm not laughing at the point you're making, honestly.
If it's no cats, it's Dars crawling about their pants.
I know. I can't find that clip, and I really want to find it.
But no, it's a societal problem, Mark. It's just quite simple as that. Every club's got their banger. Every club's got their, as Cammy rightly says, it's all hangers on. So it's not. None of them are representative of the Rangers support. They're certainly not representative of me or any of us guys here.
No.
You know, as you say, I met you at Ibrox. We went there to celebrate the team winning the league. Because I went away and had lunch in a hotel while the game was on. That's how civilised I was trying to be. Well, you sat in your car watching it.
I sat in my car with a laptop with the Rangers TV. Alan Jedi Bob says most of the idiots that were rioting prop have never been to a game in their puff. And I completely agree. Look, there was plenty of people there who, I mean, let's face it, we've just been locked down for over a year. Probably the first time a lot of people have been properly out, if you like. But again, it comes back to it. They're wearing those Rangers tops, they're flying those flags, they're wearing those scarves. So again, no matter what way you dress it up, and we will come to the ridiculous statement of Rangers should have done better in a minute. Believe me, I want to address it. But no matter what way you dress it up, no matter what Rangers do, no matter what anybody does, it makes the club look bad.
It does, and these people, just because they put on a Rangers top or a Rangers scarf, they're no Rangers supporters. And the reason I say that is, if they cared about the image of the club, they would have thought twice. I don't know what kicked the off. I've seen different stories about, it was Glasgow gangs, youths and things like that. I don't care. If you put on that Rangers top, if you cared about our club at all, you would have thought twice and you wouldn't have acted like that. For me, that's the evidence I need to know that these people are the Rangers supporters. They're no welcome at Ibrox as far as I'm concerned if that's how they're going to behave. They don't represent me, they don't represent our support. I'm sick of these people dragging our club's name through the mud. And as I say, that's why they're no Rangers supporters, because they've done it before and they'll probably do it again if they're given the chance. But Wolf's right, it's a societal thing. It'll happen. It happens everywhere we go. It happened in Meadow Park in Edinburgh a few weeks ago. There wasn't any sport involved there, but you get a large group of people together, throw in drink, and after a while, violence breaks out. There's a problem in Scotland. There is a problem in Scotland, and it needs addressed by people a lot more intelligent than us. But for me, these people are no Rangers supporters. They're no welcome at Ibrox, as far as I'm concerned. They're hanging on clowns that were using Rangers as an excuse to go out for a party and have a wee scrap with folk for a different street for them.
Can I just jump in there? Alan makes a point about people that are more intelligent than us. Where are these people that are in positions of power within Scotland that are intelligent enough to actually have the desire to target the various problems within Scottish society, whether it's drugs, drink? That's the combination that resulted in what happened at George Square on Saturday night. There is no willingness to actually try and address, without going all political here, there's no desire. They would rather use Rangers like they did in March as a political football to deflect from their own inadequacies as a government.
Yeah. Well, do you know what, Cammy? Let's come to that government, okay? They said Rangers should have done more, right? And we'll come to Hamza Yusuf in a minute, because I don't care what team you support. See, when you come out with the nonsense that man comes out with, then I'm going to speak up, right? Rangers should have done more. Rangers asked if they could have 10,000 fans inside the stadium to help. Because, Cammy, what could Rangers have possibly have done to stop fans from coming to Ibrox? And I'll add on to that, when does it become Rangers' problem as a club? Even though we've just said everybody, we're in the tops, it affects the club, it does. But why should Rangers be in the firing line for policing people in George Square? What's that got to do with Rangers?
In we spoke about it in the last few days, I don't think the club can be held responsible. Rangers' communication via the manager, social media over the 2 or 3 days leading up to Trophy Day couldn't have been any clearer. They knew what was going to happen, but in the last couple of days, we found out 10,000 people in the stadium, having 10,000 people for the 3 or 4 days after that to allow all season ticket holders access to the stadium. Players would be there. You would get it wouldn't be the same as the situation that you would have wanted to witness on Trophy Day. But Rangers were trying to present suggestions and ways to try to reduce the number of people that would be on the streets. There's no desire. There's no desire. They come out with some nonsense that it was too short notice. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, there's just no collaboration. You know, at the end of the day, you want to work to get Police Scotland, Scottish Government, Rangers, try and come together to come to something. Bellahouston Park is right on the doorstep of Ibrox. You could have had something within Bellahouston Park where 20,000 Rangers fans are all congregating in one area. The city centre was always a real worry for me, because the last time it happened in March, the city was closed and it was only really Rangers fans in the city centre. When bars and restaurants and places like that are open, then it's what happened. But Rangers could not have done any more, in my opinion, and it's. I don't think it's fair that our brand is being kicked all over the place in the last few days.
And I never talk politics because I don't really care about politics. But well, let's talk about the police. There was a TikTok video. I think anybody who's seen the TikTok video will know that it's. What are you laughing at?
Oh dear.
This TikTok video. It's clearly edited, Wolf. It's very, very, very. I mean, a 6-year-old could see that was edited. And then we have a statement from Police Scotland to say that they're investigating Rangers players.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I fully believe, and I don't want to get political either because I don't know enough about the political ins and outs of things to get too political, but I fully believe that the main reason there was no plans in place to deal with the crowds that they knew was going to be there on Saturday, because as Cammy says, it's come to light in the last couple of days that Stuart Robertson contacted the Scottish Government 3.5 weeks before it and said, look, can we get 10,000 at the ground? Because there's people are going to congregate. So he's admitted, look, we know people are going to congregate, so let's try and sort this out. I don't think the Scottish Government wanted anything sorted out because they wanted what happened to happen because they knew what would happen. Because as we said, it's societal, so we know that if you get an amount of people in Scotland together, particularly young people, on the drink all day, because there was no attempt that I saw from anybody at any point to stop people drinking in the street, which is against the law. They could quite easily have said, look, you all need to stop drinking. Right? There was not. And to be honest, I thought the police handled it really, really well at Ibrox. They were obviously there just on crowd control duty, and they controlled the crowds, from what I saw, really well. They wanted to clear Emerson Drive. They cleared everybody at the side. They weren't assaulting people. They weren't being heavy-handed. To me, I thought the police did a great job at Ibrox. But, I mean, for the Police Scotland to come out with that statement, I fully believe that our then Justice Secretary, who very funnily is very quickly no longer the Justice Secretary, so when the shit hits the fan on this one, they'll say, well, it's not really his problem anymore because he's not in that office. I think he put pressure on Police Scotland to say, look, you need to tweet about this, because straight away he quoted the tweet straight away with almost exactly the same language, saying, I'm aware of it as well. You know, it was all too much of a coincidence for me. I think they wanted this to happen, or they wanted something to happen to take away the inadequacies from them. That's without getting too political. And looking at it the way I see it, we're an easy target for the current Scottish Government because they're of a perception that very few of their votes come from the Rangers support. Now, that may be right and it may be wrong. I don't know. I know what I think about it, but that's not for here. But that'll be how they perceive it. Mm-hmm. So if they annoy us, what does it matter to them? It's not going to affect their popularity. And it's probably going to increase their popularity amongst the people that support them.
And of course, it was the then Justice Secretary, Hamza Youssef, who's now the Health Secretary, I believe. So, you know, yeah. Alan, for the police, and we'll come to the politicians in a wee second, for the police to put out a statement like that is worrying. So in fact, now, do you know what? Let's go to the politicians, because am I just being stupid, naive, silly here? Or this kind of feels like to me it was orchestrated, and the fact that it possibly was orchestrated. Hamza Youssef and James Dornan, is that the boy's name? Mm-hmm. James Dornan. Coming out with all this rubbish, they know that in a couple of days that's going to die down and go away, but it's going to hurt the reputation of our club. There's going to be lasting effects, because all that's going to be sent out into the world is Rangers players being sectarian. So it will die down for them and it will go away, but then it affects our club going forward, surely.
Yeah. See, you can go back to as I say, with the dates that were involved in the violence as well. I don't doubt there's people within the government, I wouldn't say who, but I don't doubt there's people within the Scottish Government and the mainstream media that are delighted that these things were happening and jumping on the back of TikTok videos, because they couldn't come out and criticise us for the gathering of Rangers supporters, because they encouraged people to gather in Glasgow on two separate occasions either side of the Rangers fans gathering, so they couldn't criticise us for that. So when all the carry on in George Square in Glasgow, this fake video that, you know, the Police Scotland commented on and the Justice Secretary commented on, they're loving that, because it gives them something to kick Rangers with, because they couldn't do it for the gathering. The way they did it the last time, they kicked us for the gathering the last time, they couldn't do that. And you're right, all that dies down, and, you know, Twitter might stop talking about it, but in the back of people's minds, that's there, all those terrible Rangers yobs again.
But Alan, it's not even the yobs, it's the fact that this was aimed at the Rangers players.
Aye. I'm sorry, I was meaning the players when I said that. You know, it's, you know, that, you're right, it does die down, but it just gives people the excuse to drag something up again. Mm-hmm. Or remember when you did this. I mean, we still get people coming on Facebook and Twitter and social media and talking about David Healy kidding on he was playing the flute and Paul Gascoigne kidding on he was playing the flute. It's just anything to use at all, and they'll throw this in our face and they'll bring this up again, and see after it's proven that it's a fake video, in years to come there'll still be people go, I remember when your players were singing this after he's won the league, because it suits the narrative. To have a kick at Rangers. Sorry, I could go on about this all night.
Aye, no, do you know what?
because it absolutely scunnered me at the start of the week.
It scunnered me as well.
To the point, I know a couple of us had spoken about it in our group chat. I was getting ready to come off social media altogether, off Twitter, because I needed a break for it, because I felt like we were getting used as a political football, and I was scunnered with it, and it didn't ruin my weekend. It really didn't, but at the start of the week, I struggled a wee bit with it, because every time I picked my phone up, whether it be to look at social media or look at the news, it was somebody else having a dig at Rangers, or something that's made up, or this video that's made up. And it got to me at the start of the week, and now I'm starting to get to that angry stage that it got to. As I say, I could go on about it all day.
This is now the time. Sorry, Martin. This is now the time for the club to stand up. I mean, the club's done some great things defending us in the last kind of 2 or 3 years after years of David Murray letting the press kick us all over the place. Now's the time for the club to stand up, and I'm sure they will, because they haven't just come out and had a knee-jerk reaction. They put out a very succinct statement saying we believe there's no criminality taking place, and they're dealing with it. But they have to follow this through. To me, Rangers as a club have to follow this through, because it's not just us as a supporter having a dig at. They're having a dig at their employees, right? Mm-hmm. They're basically trying to affect the trade of a private limited company by besmirching their reputation. The Rangers have to do something about that, and even just getting apologies won't be enough. And hopefully, Douglas Park and Stuart Robertson, do it properly and don't let this go.
This is the thing, Cammy. The reason that it took me about 18 attempts to ask Alan that question was because it must be subconsciously, but now that we're actually talking about it and the whole situation, it really pissed me off. You've got the police and the Justice Secretary basically accusing our own players, some of whom are Catholic and very proud of being Catholic, of saying ridiculous, hurtful things towards other people. What do the club have to do now, in your eyes, Cammy?
I think there's probably in the last 2 or 3 days, I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I think apologies mean nothing. Not anymore. To be honest, apologies mean nothing. I think Glenn Kamara, Ryan Kent, Joe Aribo, the players that are pictured, listen, none of us care what their religion is. Nope. We Rangers as a football club, a lot of our people that have a kick at us would say Rangers as a football club have not moved forward. The Rangers Football Club of 1985 compared to the Rangers Football Club now is, we've got far more players from all over the world, mixes of race, religion, all that sort of stuff, and I think we are very, very diverse with regard to that. And I watched the video and I laughed at it. And then you go on social media and you see the fallout. You've got an ex Scotland and Celtic player who's now a coach down south, tweets something about it, and he says, "Am I hearing that right?" So he puts it out there. It's not just politicians. But he obviously got a phone call. Blah blah blah. Rangers have to go down the legal route with regard to this. A wee apology on page 7 of the Sun or whatever it may be isn't what we need. We need to actually go for the throat with the people concerned. I reckon that the politician that was the Justice Secretary, he knew that his role was changing and the days after that, so he was just going out with this is my parting gift for Rangers. I'm going to throw a grenade, and it's not going to damage me, but it's going to damage the reputation of the football club, which he hates. He hates us as a football club. But I think there's several people within that government have no time at all for Rangers. But Rangers have to come out all guns blazing with regard to this. I'm glad that the statement was clear and concise and didn't. I think a lot of people were expecting us to throw grenades straight away. there's things going on. I'm sure lawyers' letters and what have you will have hit a few people's doorsteps, but lawyers' letters don't really do it for me. We have to go full booner for this one.
Yeah, 100%. Douglas, come on. Well said, Cammy. Although, do you know what? I'm not even going to kid on about that. That was very well said, absolutely. Fog Dog, slandered at best, should go right after them all. Go for the throat. That's what Rangers need to do. And that is exactly what we need to do.
Do you know what? I've spoke a lot here, and you know that I can speak a lot, but it's actually been, as much Alan said, I could talk about this all night. It's actually, talking about this has actually been more therapeutic for me than reading it on Twitter, and even reading it within group messages where what somebody writes in a message can be interpreted different ways. I think the four of us sitting here and just having the conversation, and we're all very much on the same page on pretty much everything that's happened. You know, it's I've the first couple of days of the week, I think as the week has progressed, my anger has subsided. I think because I've probably blocked every rocket under the sun on Twitter, to be perfectly honest with you. So I'm not seeing a lot of it. But it's that's all I had to say. Sorry, Martin.
No. Well, listen, we'll finish it up there because, like you say, we could talk about it all night. I didn't actually realise until I started talking about it how angry I was. But there you go. Just two more quick comments and then we'll finish up. Fog Dog, no more soft touch Rangers, 100%. And of course, Andrew, Rangers Football Club are a mix of cultures, religions, and you can see by the player celebrations all pulling together. Never heard these accusations when we were not winning anything.
See the final thing on it. The TikTok is apparently. Listen, I'm no down with the kids, so I don't really know what a TikTok is, to be perfectly honest with you.
Not a clue.
But apparently, editing stuff like that is very easy to do. Like my 6-year-old could probably do something with regard to TikTok. But some of the videos that have came out since where people have done the same sort of thing, but tongue in cheek, shows you how easy it actually is.
Yeah,
you know, it's the fact that Police Scotland, honest. They got
Police Scotland, the
Police
former
Scotland.
Justice Secretary, who was a former Transport Minister, who got caught driving without insurance when he was Transport Minister, now Health Secretary. Honestly, Cammy, it absolutely blows my mind. But look, we shall finish there because that's an hour and 7 minutes, and I'm dying to go outside and have a cigarette, so I'm going to go and do that.
Can we finish on a positive?
Absolutely, go for it. Let's finish on a positive.
Glasgow Rangers, 55 league titles. That is what has brought this about. They cannot handle the fact we are back at the top of Scottish football. The song goes 55 times the Kings of Scotland, and don't let them forget it.
Fog Dog's 100% there. We knew that winning 55 was going to break Celtic, right?
Yeah.
Not in my wildest dreams did I think it was going to break the entire country. And it's absolutely wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. So if this is what 55 is, what the hell is 56 going to do next year?
Oh, here we go, Terry Monroe.
We're not going to George for 56.
We'll be inside
We'll be home.
I've seen somebody asking if we're going to go to George Square for Flag Day. I think we'll get a miss.
Alan, Wolf, Cammy, guys, as ever, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody watching. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, like, Facebook, like, I don't know, Twitter, retweet, like, whatever the nonsense. Thank you for tuning in. We will be here all throughout the summer. We will be going from 2 podcasts a week down to 1. If there is any breaking news, contracts, whatever, then we'll be right on it as well. So listen, thank you to everybody watching. I'm just having a wee look. We've got plenty of 55s, peaceful warriors at the 55. And we shall speak to you very, very soon. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.